Welcome to the Growth Boss podcast, where we seek out the secrets to high-performing campaigns from some of the smartest marketers in the world. I'm your host, Jared Smith. Today I have Daniel Borba with me, and he's going to teach us how to drive brand differentiation with strategic video content. Daniel is the CEO of SparkPortal. After his family moved to Miami in 2001, he faced financial and immigration obstacles that made attending college difficult. This caused him to enroll in a TV production academy where he learned video skills and later on started a wedding videography business. His business experience then led to a decade-long freelance animation career, which eventually inspired him to create a video strategy and production agency that focuses on prioritizing client impact over conventional methods. Daniel, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. That was a great introduction.
Awesome. So, Daniel, how do entrepreneurs go about creating brand differentiation through their video content?
That's a really, really good question. You know, differentiation, it's a big, big thing right now. How do you really stand out? Because there's so many options. We're just coming out of a period in time where there has been so much money going around that you didn't have to differentiate. You just had to be there at the right time, you know?
Yeah, right.
And so I think right now for a lot of businesses, differentiation and going back to brand, it's a huge, huge focus. And I think it's going to be for the next 2 or 3 years, at least. So especially with the rise of AI now that the cost of entry is lower, right? And so how do you do that with video is fairly simple. You have to let your values shine through with video. What I mean by that is your business already has certain core values or certain things that you kind of abide by, right? Like things that you do that are unique to your business or to the founder or to the owner, or even if you're just a marketer, right? That you leverage to present to the world. And the more you can let that shine through with video, the better. And so that means different things for different businesses. So if when you're talking to a local business owner, that means maybe putting in a little humor into the videos that you make. Social media, maybe. That means a little bit, maybe gather some team members and create some trending things, right, for social media. For staying on the local business, let's say you also want to have some technical videos, like how to do something, right? How to think about something. That type of content is great. That you can really differentiate yourself if you just focus on that. Let's say for a marketer, let's say you're a marketer working at a software company, about 15, 20 people, and you're the only marketer. Well, in that regard, you might want to start focusing on LinkedIn, maybe video on LinkedIn for brand, top of the funnel type stuff. And that's it's very known that you have to go to LinkedIn if you're a software company. But when you really think about it, if you assess it properly, you quickly find out the vast majority of people that are on LinkedIn consume content and they don't post content. So if you start posting content on LinkedIn, especially video, you would automatically, by default, differentiate yourself. The challenge there will be consistency. And so for that marketer in a software company, they should definitely look at internally to see what resources they have, and maybe look into getting something like Riverside or Zoom and recording thought leadership videos with their CEO or, whoever. And if their CEO is kind of technical and not very, animated and it's not very social or interesting, maybe take a different angle. Maybe create videos with a little bit of voiceover and you be the voiceover, but only the voice, not your face, right? Because you don't want to be the face, let's say. That's another angle, a quick way that you can quickly create videos. And so those are kind of like the two scenarios that I usually think about, and that covers most B2B marketers. Is the local type business that has local businesses, local people, right, in a location. And then you also have the remote team, software company, single or 2 people marketing department. And if you were just a single marketer, like an agency or something, then definitely I would say follow the same things that I just explained for the software marketer.
So the first thing that would come to my mind, both as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, is, okay, where do I need to be publishing this content? Am I putting this out on social media? Is this just going on my website? Where am I going with this?
Such a good question. So the harsh reality is that those places change all the time. And they don't change very often, right? They don't change like every week, but they do change over time. So that means that you need to learn to adapt over time, right? So in other words, maybe month to month, you're not going to see a difference, or quarter to quarter. But over the years, every 2 or 3 years, you might see like, oh, wow, like, yeah, like we need to plan something different now, right? And so to go back to your question, so if you're in B2B, LinkedIn is top, like number one. A second best is YouTube. And then if your audience is on Instagram or, Meta, Facebook, or, X or whatever other social media site, then by all means. But I would say the top channels are for B2B is LinkedIn. But if you're like a local business or something like that, then definitely more towards like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Those are and Instagram, right? Yeah. Definitely top channels. Now, I will say this. There's a lot of, specifically for the software companies, there's a lot of opportunity in repurposing the content for other channels like email, websites, blogging, like all that type of stuff. But without getting too granular, I would say the top channels for top of the funnel stuff is LinkedIn. And you will see that over time, people like the deals, the leads are going to be just way better than you've ever seen before. Because the interesting thing about that channel, LinkedIn, specifically, is that when people go to that platform, they go with the mindset of a professional person, meaning, how can I improve my career? How can I do my job better? How can I understand something? How can I learn something new regarding my job? And so they're already in that frame of thinking. Versus YouTube, for example, YouTube is still people going with the mindset of learning, but they're wanting to maybe be entertained a little bit more, right? And so we can spend hours talking about this, but I would say you asked me specifically, where should we be posting? And for us, for a marketer at a software company, LinkedIn. For a local business, I would say YouTube for sure, and Instagram or Facebook, right? So those are or TikTok even.
Love it. And the next question that's going to come to my mind, is like, okay, what level of equipment am I going to need to shoot these videos? Can I just pull out my phone, kind of do this, on the fly, or do I need to go invest a bunch of money into getting kind of top tier video equipment?
So I'm going to go a little bit different here. Okay. And I'll say this. We need to start approaching that question with more of a scientific approach, meaning you should invest all the money in the world if it's working, if it's giving you a return on your investment. But you cannot also start with a huge investment, because then you also increase your risk. Right. And so there's people that say, oh, we want a camera, and sure, that would be amazing, but maybe that would be too much for you, right? And so you could probably start with your iPhone. Once you see that you can do it regularly, then maybe graduate to a DSLR camera, maybe with some lighting and a microphone, right? Now we're spending, $1,500, $2,000 for all those things. You can find cheaper options. I can go into details on the specific equipment pieces that you'll need. But just to answer the question in a nutshell, you can spend tens of thousands of dollars doing a whole podcasting studio, for example. But the reality is that you don't need to just start out. If you're thinking about it that way, you can almost assume that you're thinking about it the wrong way, right? Because the thing that matters most is consistency. And with the amount of tools available out there, like cameras, webcams, laptops, phones, it's going to get you 80% of the way there. We make videos for worldwide global companies, right? With, huge companies. And they still record, some of those videos are recorded on Zoom. Again, because they start there with a scientific approach, they see what works with their audience, and then they decide that we should all do the same. And so for the local business, the same thing. Like, start with your phone, because that's probably the thing that everybody has, or a laptop. And once you get some wins under your belt, then graduate to a camera, Yeah. And once you start winning with that, then you can hire a videographer maybe, right? Like a local maybe student or something like that can come in and every once a week or twice a week, you shoot the whole content for the week, or at least like the vast majority. Now, in the software world, that's not feasible because everybody's remote. So, but the way to answer that question would be, hey, maybe get a light for your CEO and just have him record on his laptop. Then later, once you start posting videos regularly and he's also excited about it, then at that point say, hey, we should probably invest in a DSLR camera, a lighting kit, and maybe a nice background, and that could be a better setup,
Yep.
And then you or a mic, right? And then you start graduating from there. Or maybe instead of doing it in-house, you can start thinking about leveraging an agency where we say, okay, now we're going to allocate some of our marketing budget for a video agency that they're going to help us with explainer videos or this or that, whatever else. So, but at least that's how most people should approach it, with start small, graduate, and then prove the ROI. And so I think that's the best way to approach it. So do you feel like that answered the question?
Yeah, I do. I think about a lot of the content that I see, especially on Instagram. The thing that came to my mind was there was like this accountant I just started following, tax tips and stuff. And he's got, 500,000 followers. There's nothing special about his videos. Nothing special.
Nothing.
But it's good content. He's clearly just using his phone. He's not even thinking about lighting. He's an older guy, 65, 70. But there's something authentic about it where you're like, okay, this guy is old. He's got a great advice. He doesn't care about his lighting. That's fine. There's something authentic that I think people resonate with on that. And I think the most important thing is to just get started. Just get going. Don't worry as much about the production value of it. That'll come in time.
100%. So remember, I don't know, this thought came to my mind. You know how Apple started with the iPhone? Well, they started with laptops and, but after the iPhone, I can't remember exactly how much it was, but they started with the iPhone and then the iPad and the iPod Touch, and like it started. Now you go to their website and there's literally like dozens of options. From literally just the same product, really. In
Right.
essence, it's the same product.
Yep.
Right? Sometimes we want to start with like a variety of videos and projects and things like that, but we can't start there. We have to start with the iPhone. We have to start with the most viable amount of videos that you can do today with what you have. And then graduate. Because at the end of the day, like you said, authenticity, it's a huge vehicle. It's a huge vehicle. And I've seen it work time and time and again. I've already said in other instances, but I'll say it again. We recently attended a sales kickoff event for a software company for one of our clients. And the marketing girl, she's like, hey, the other day we were at another event that they attended, right? And they're like, I just recorded myself like walking through the booth stuff, like a 30-second little just walking video. I sped it up so that it lasts like 15 seconds. And I put some music in the background, and then we just posted, hey, we're at booth so-and-so, number XYZ, and come visit us. It's one of so far this year is one of the best performing videos.
Amazing, right? I mean, it's funny because you're like, how simple is that?
And it didn't cost anything. They didn't hire us, right?
Right.
Well, I guess they did, but like what I mean is because we give them that idea. But essentially, my point here is anybody could have come up with that idea, really.
Yeah.
And so, because it like you said, the authenticity is a great vehicle to really stand out, right? Because in a feed of just kind of like a bunch of people just trying to appear in a certain way, here shows up something unique, raw, and authentic, and incredibly valuable for me and relevant to me as a consumer, right? As a social media consumer or content consumer, because the same goes for all types of content. It needs to be relevant. Yeah. So yeah.
Love it. So I think one of the early questions, again, after they're like, okay, I can use my phone. I'm good with that. Next question that comes to mind is like, okay, how do I come up with ideas? Or like, what am I going to share? Which is funny because again, everybody has something interesting to share, but I struggled with this. I mean, I just passed 20 years as a digital marketer. I'm like, what am I going to share? Gosh, what do I know? And I'm like, Jared, come on, you have like 2 decades of experience, just share whatever. But are there kind of creative ideas that you've had to come up with ideas to kind of get over that maybe writer's block of like, what am I going to share? What am I going to produce?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't like to use the term writer's block, writer's fog, or whatever they call it, because I think that if you feel that way, that means that you're looking at it the wrong way, And so, and I want to be clear, I'm not, this is not specific to you, Jared, or me, because I experience this too as well. But what I've noticed is that when I experience that, I quickly find out like I'm just trying to create something instead of letting it happen organically. And that's,
Okay.
we run into that problem of wanting to fit in with everybody else.
Yep.
And so inside we have this nature of wanting to be like everybody else, right?
Yep.
But then we quickly find out that if we try to be like someone else, we're not going to be like, we're not us. We're not me. I'm not me.
Yep.
And we're not authentic and we're not unique. And so I think, I don't think the expectation is for you to just be a unique all the time and be this like, amazing personality. The general point here is you have to find a way for you to communicate the things that you are fired up about, that matter to you, that that also matters to another group of people. In this case, your prospects, right? And the more you make it about them, the more authentic it's going to feel for you, because then you're actually helping someone, right? Or you're entertaining somebody, or you're making something that someone else finds relevant. And so to go back to basically answer the question in a short answer is, there is no one way of avoiding having this mental block of creating content. And I go back to thinking like a scientific person, say, well, why am I having this block? What's blocking me? Is it that I don't have ideas, or is it that I'm trying to meet someone else's expectations? And then maybe stepping away from it and saying, hey, maybe I need a backlog of ideas so that I don't have to stare at a blank page. So I'm going to start a document with ideas that I find in my free time. So by the time I start, I'm like, oh, okay, I can review this and I could spark ideas. Maybe you're more methodical. Maybe you're saying, no, I'm going to actually start with the hooks. I'm going to start doing like, small briefs or summaries of what I wanted the videos to be about. And I'm going to create a list of that. I don't know. My point here is you have to approach it scientifically, meaning ask yourself, what's stopping me? What's the next natural step to take here? What is my end goal? And how can I work backwards from that? Where have I skipped a step maybe? And I think if you do that, also another great idea will be for you to be more strategic about it and say, let me come up with a content strategy. And say, okay, and I want to be very cautious here because marketers are going to want to shoot me if I say this, but essentially you can go like spend 3 months coming up with a marketing strategy, or you can just say, hey, I'm just going to talk about these 4 content pillars, these 4 or 3 topics that I know I'm super fired up about. And then every month I'm going to check in my engagement and I'm going to spend time figuring out, okay, what has worked that I would be willing to do again. Right? So you can take it as tactical as that, or you can also go the other route, which is like, let's come up with an actual strategy and put KPIs and, and the whole shebang. So that's what I would suggest for in terms of coming up with content ideas is make it work for you and find a way to make it work systematically. And that system is not going to be beautiful. It's not going to work every time you sit down and write down, and you start writing ideas. So you can just count on that. And just also count on the fact that you can get through it, that it's okay that you didn't come up with no ideas that day. That's okay.
Right.
There's always tomorrow. There's always next week. So, yeah.
I love it. And don't be afraid to use AI, right? I mean, I say, hey, I've got 5 ideas, throw that into ChatGPT. I need 15, 20 more. Here's my target market. I mean, play with it a little bit. We've got incredible tools these days that can just kind of help us with that creative process, especially for a busy business owner who's like, man, I don't have the time to get out and be inspired, or come up with my own ideas. Hey, start with what you have, right?
Yeah. Another point that I just thought about is, so 2 points. The AI stuff, that is how we should approach it is, hey, here's this tool. How can I use it to help me in my process? That's I think the right approach versus trying to force it into the process, right? Or into the product. So that's AI. The other stuff is when it comes to, coming up with ideas, you definitely want to also be part of the trends that are happening, right?
Yeah.
Because that is what is relevant today. So in other words, sometimes I've seen, like right now I'm sure you have seen it and everybody else has seen it, because I know I have some friends that are international and they've seen him. So I know that this is a very, very broad thing. There's a lot of videos that are of people dancing to the beat of the Super Bowl dance presentation, musical.
Yeah, the halftime show.
The halftime show. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Everybody is kind of doing that step, right? I think is it Kendrick Lamar?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that's a great idea. And again, some of us might be quick to judge and might say, hey, I don't want to be doing that.
Sure.
And that's okay. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm making here is there are trends that are happening that are great opportunities for you to stay relevant and differentiate yourself. Because that's the key.
Yep.
Is if you can tap into those trends and be part of that, all of a sudden you become relevant. And you differentiate yourself because you're part of something that other people cannot easily do or replicate, right? And I'm not suggesting anybody to start dancing if they don't know how to dance. My broader point here is maybe you can talk about it, right? Instead of you doing the dance, you can talk about it, or from the perspective of your business, or you can create a video around that as an idea, not necessarily like doing what everybody else is doing. And but that's a huge underutilized potential opportunity for a lot of businesses, and that goes for both like local business stuff and also in the SaaS world. I've seen it on LinkedIn. People are doing the step, and then also I've seen it like dental offices do that.
Yeah.
There's also a bunch of other trends like we listen and we don't judge, that type of thing. I can name countless, right? They all go in cycles. Every week there's something new, or every month, and some of these things that last like several weeks. So you have enough window of opportunity.
Absolutely.
And so again, it's an opportunity for you to stay relevant, for you to stay in front of your audience in a way that is both a little bit entertaining, but also informational. In other words, relevant for them. And so, that's how I think about it, about those trends.
Yeah, it humanizes the business, right? You think about, I think a dental office is a great example. You kind of think about it, I got to go to the dentist. But you see the dentists and the nurses, everybody kind of dancing around. It's like, oh yeah, that looks like they're having a good time. Like that's the kind of dentist I would want to see. And I think it's that human element that I don't want to say you only get, you see that more in video than you do in written form, right? You get the personality a little bit more that allows people to engage with it, that allows them to connect ultimately with you behind the camera better than other forms. And that's what you want your prospects to see.
Yeah. That's what they want to see, like another person.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else that you feel is important for entrepreneurs, for marketers to understand to be able to create that type of content? I
think that a few things. Number one, stop comparing yourself, right? You cannot be someone else. You can only be you. And that's it right there. Like that's one of the major things. Like don't compare yourself or your marketing to the competition alone. I mean, I know it's part of everybody. Like as a marketer and as a business owner, you look at the competition and that's fine. You have to take it into account. I'm not saying you shouldn't.
Yep.
My point here is more regarding when it becomes too much, like you're comparing yourself too much. At the end of the day, to really differentiate yourself, you have to not just compete, but create a true competitive advantage. And in order for you to do that, you need to be true to your core values, to your person, if you're a small business, then you need to be true to this vision that you have. And if you're a software company, then you need to be true to the product itself and the solution that it is for their clients. And so you can only accomplish those things if you really look at them with fresh eyes that take into account the competition, but not that is everything around the competition, right? And I know that it's very hard to think in that framework in the business world, but it's key, I think. And otherwise, you're going to just compete and tap into the same thing that everybody else is doing. Yeah. And so that'll be, I would say, definitely one of the top things to watch out for.
Love it. Daniel, thank you so much for being here today. For those who want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn or go to my website, sparkportal.com.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thank you.